Good evening and welcome to our annual Prostate Cancer Awareness virtual event. The event is co-hosted by the NAACP New Bedford branch and AdMeTech Foundation. My name is Andrea Gar-Barnes. I am the Health Equity Chair for the NAACP New Bedford branch. AdMeTech is a foundation dedicated to disrupting health inequities. Dr. Stern will share with us the mission of AdMeTech a bit later in the program. Now, I'd like to introduce you. We have a panel of experts that are going to be speaking to us this evening. And I'd like to introduce Cheryl Bartlett, who's the CEO of the Greater New Bedford Health Center. The Greater New Bedford Health Center is located at 874 Purchase Street in New Bedford. And Cheryl has been the CEO since 2017. Cheryl.
Thank you for inviting me to you and to Dr. Stern. I'm delighted to be here. This is a subject that's near and dear to my heart, and I thought I'd give a little overview of my relationship to prostate cancer awareness and education, as well as my work with Dr. Stern. So in 2008, I was appointed to be the Bureau Director at the Department of Public Health's Division of Community Health and Prevention. And one of the programs that was in that division was the Comprehensive Cancer Program. And with that, there was a statewide advisory committee of which the commissioner at the time asked me to co-chair and wanted to really revamp what was going on. And there was really a lack of major innovation and creativity happening around cancer statewide, and it was funded through the CDC, and part of the mission was that every 5 years we would create a statewide comprehensive cancer plan that anybody that was working in cancer could see what role they could play to increase prevention, increase early detection, and provide the support that we needed so people had better outcomes. And over time, health equity became an important priority because we saw that there was such huge disparities in communities of color. And that's where I met Dr. Stern. She started attending some of the advisory committee meetings and really started being a strong force to influence the work that we were doing. And I think for me, what was startling was we were starting to talk about the PSA testing. And at the time, when we first started the conversation, it was one of the highest recommendations of the U.S. Preventative Service Task Force screening guidelines, that men should have one every year after the age of 50. And then sort of halfway through planning, all of a sudden they downgraded it. It became a C. It was sort of like, oh, do it if you want to do it. And then it eventually dropped to, I think, like an F or a D, but they were basically saying it was dangerous to do PSAs. And that really, I felt, turned the world upside down. Primary care providers didn't really have the tools that they needed to understand, should they do it, should they not do it. There was this whole group of people that were saying it should be an informed decision, men should decide. And I can honestly say that I traveled around the state because I started an initiative for men of color, not necessarily just for prostate cancer, but I was sort of charged with looking at men of color having the worst health outcomes in the state of Massachusetts. With that research and getting out into the community, I learned that prostate cancer was at the top of the list. But what I learned was most startling. I met with a group of men in Fitchburg, and there were men that didn't even know what a prostate was. And so the campaigns that the Department of Public Health were using to try to get men to pay attention to the prostate were prostate cancer kills. Well, if you don't know that you have a prostate, then how are you going to have that message? That message won't resonate with you. And so we really started having to have a battle with the people in the government who were creating these guidelines that became detrimental to men. So many primary care providers stopped ordering PSAs and men stopped having them. And so we started to see a reversal of the trend where diagnosis was becoming much later. Men were having much worse worse health outcomes. And we started going to the legislature. I think one of my first meetings with Dr. Stern was with Senator Brownsberger, who was saying, well, what are we going to do about this? Let's do something. Why don't we try to get an earmark in the state budget? And why don't we create a statewide prostate cancer education and awareness campaign? And again, that's something that we had to sort of struggle within the bureaucracy of government and the Department of Health, who weren't particularly fond of earmarks because that took away the money from them in their minds and went to someone else. Because within the language of the earmarks, we started saying a certain percentage of the funding would go to AdMeTech to really lead the charge on prostate cancer awareness. And in my mind, fortunately, I rose the ranks at DPH and became the commissioner, so I got a lot to say about what we did. And I thought, why do we care if Dr. Stern gets the money or we get the money? She's going to go out there and inform men about this really critical health issue that's so important to them. And so I was a big advocate and a big supporter with not only within the department, but throughout the legislature, which I have a lot of good long-term relationships. So over time, we were able to get this money in the budget on a yearly basis. And I can tell you that Faye is a tireless advocate to get out there and educate all of our legislators and to make sure they understand the value of this money and the work that she leads. And many of us are her loyal followers and help to make sure that we really are changing the paradigm of prostate cancer care. So one of the ideas we had over time, Faye and I really became very close in working together, and how could she further her work and get the things that I was trying to accomplish done. And we felt like we had to fight this inertia around the PSA and how could we get the message out that this is the best practice. But we created this initiative of bringing scientists from all over the world, practicing physicians, researchers in the diagnostic world, and learning how can we better diagnose prostate cancer in less invasive ways? How can we differentiate those men who have cancers that need aggressive treatment? One thing I learned from Dr. Stern in all of this is a large percentage of men were having surgery that was unnecessary, and with surgery oftentimes comes unpleasant consequences that we really wanted to avoid, so men continued to have a quality of life. So how do we start really teasing out information so men know what they need to know and providers need to know how to help take care of them? And so this global summit, I have to say, it was really blew my mind every year about the advancements that were taking place that don't get down to practical application in our communities. And the further you get away from the Boston, the less you have that best practice information so that the men going to their primary cares can really get what they need and get the information. And so Faye really started this two-pronged approach, which was educating primary care providers and educating men. So if informed decision-making was going to be the new lingo of how to manage prostate cancer, we needed to inform men so that they asked for PSAs, because if the provider wasn't ordering it and the man didn't know to ask for it, they weren't having it done. Again, we started to see increased advanced disease and increased rates of mortality. And so part of the Global Summit included creating an expert panel to advise and bring forth recommendations so we could go to the Department of Public Health and say, this is the best practice. You need to stop saying that PSAs are dangerous. And so eventually we have seen with the experts' ongoing advocacy that eventually the U.S. Preventative Services Task Force started to bring back the recommendations for PSA. But now it's a more nuanced PSA. It isn't just everybody get it every year starting at age 50. It's who gets it, starting earlier, getting baselines and starting to triage men by the risks that they have. Once we have these baselines, we can better help help men understand how they manage how often they get the PSAs. And once they're positive, that isn't the end of the story. That's really the beginning of the story. Then you need to really do that differential diagnostic work so that we know which men's really have the advanced disease and which men can hold off and not have surgery yet. And I can say personally, I've sent friends through the programs that Dr. Stern has created, and I have friends that needed surgery and had it and very successfully living healthy and happy today. And I've had men that have been 10 years not having to have surgery. So I think in both cases, those people got the best outcomes that they needed for their situation. So I am thrilled to continue to work with Dr. Stern. I try to participate in her annual education day at the State House, and I've brought her to New Bedford on occasion to start to really see how can we in Bristol County and the greater New Bedford region, and particularly and selfishly for the men that I serve at the New Bedford Community Health Center, make sure we have the very best care possible. And I'm going to say this here, and I'm not proud to say it, but I did an analysis this year of where we stood with prostate cancer, just how many men that fit in the age category are having their PSAs done. And it was really appallingly low. And so we have a lot of work to do, but I feel like I finally have the attention within my organization. Unfortunately, COVID sort of sidetracked us for a couple of years where there were no other priorities in health. And we all know that people continued to have other health issues, and we're really playing catch up now that we're kind of in a more normal endemic state with COVID. And so we've formed a partnership with AdMeTech at the health center, and within, I think, less than a month's time, we've had 4 men. So almost every day, every week, we're getting new men that are connected with this expert care. So I am thrilled that you're partnering with the NAACP, the New Bedford chapter. We had made an attempt many years ago. And I really feel that the work that Dr. Stern did with the NAACP in Brockton is a great example of hopefully what we can achieve together working in New Bedford to remove that health disparity so all men have equal access to best care, to early detection, to the proper treatment appropriate for the level of their disease, and that they have a long quality of life. So I'm thrilled to be a part of this tonight, and going forward, whatever we can do together, just let me know and I will be there.
Cheryl, I really want to thank you for your partnership for so many years. Together, we built a new model for research that resulted in MRI becoming a standard part of care for men. Together, we built new models of public awareness that with Brockton leading the charge, where we essentially got to the point of near parity in mortality between Black and white men. And right now, you are leading the way in partnership with Prostate Cancer Equity Program that delivers the best available patient care available today to the most underserved men. Thank you so much for your partnership, Cheryl.
It is my pleasure, and look forward to our work. We have a lot of work in front of us in New Bedford.
Thank you so much, Cheryl. And we feel your passion, and we appreciate your passion and care. I'd like to introduce folks to Dr. Earl Potts, physician from the greater New Bedford area. He's now practicing with Hawthorne Medical Associates, and he practices adult medicine. Dr. Potts, can you share with us your perspective on prostate cancer awareness?
So I'll just give some little background on myself as well. I've been in the New Bedford area now for about 35 years, practicing primary care. Actually, I'm a alumni of the Greater New Bedford Community Health Center. In fact, the reason I'm in this area is because of the Greater New Bedford Community Health Center. I'm from Chicago. I went to Harvard Medical School, and when I was at Harvard Medical School, they still had something called the National Health Service Corps. that
Oh,
sent
yeah.
doctors
Cool.
in primary care to
Yeah.
physician manpower shortage areas is the description. And New Bedford was considered one of those areas. And in 1988, after I did my residency in New York in the Bronx at Montefiore Hospital, I joined the New Bedford Community Health Center and worked there for 3 years and fulfilled my commitment. And so I'm very well aware of the efforts that go on at the health center, and I commend you for it. Since then, I've been through several practices. I started my own private practice, and actually, I ended up working with I ended up being one of the founding members of the primary care group at St. Luke's at South Coast Primary Care, and most recently for the last 14 years, I've been a partner here at Hawthorne Medical Associates, where we have over 100 doctors in 29 specialties and at least 7 urologists and about 40 doctors practicing primary care. And so I've been in this a long time, and certainly have experienced the change in screening recommendations. But I would say, the benefit that I've had over the years is that essentially all my practice models have allowed me to practice as independent practitioner. So we are a private practice here at Hawthorne, but each doctor gets to run their practice the way that they like, because we really are in private practice. So I've continued. So the standard recommendations generally have been that men check PSAs at 50, but I think you always need to consider race and people at risk. So if you have a family history of prostate cancer, I'm certainly going to have you check your PSA at age 40. And if you're a person of color, I'm going to start checking your PSA at 40. Now, the big issue became, oh my God, you're doing all these screenings, and all these people are going to get complications from getting prostate biopsies and tests that they don't necessarily need. And I think, that may be true, but I think especially in our society where there's such discrepancies in healthcare, I don't think it's overkill to encourage men of color, particularly African American men, to get prostate cancer screening at an early age. 40 is the age that I start. In fact, I start doing digital rectal exams on all men at age 40. Just an anecdote, when I started in my own private practice after I left the community health center, it was probably in the early 90s. I had actually a Portuguese, he's a white Portuguese male, come in, and we did our first rectal exam, and I felt a nodule, checked his PSA, and the PSA was normal, but I sent him to the urologist anyway. And it turned out he had prostate cancer. Now, at that time, they were aggressively, pursuing surgery, and they did surgery on him, removed the prostate cancer. He's still my patient today. He's fine. He did not end up with any complications. He's got good erectile function and all the things you worry about. But you also question, did you do the right thing for that patient? Well, if I hadn't detected that prostate cancer at age 40 and waited to his age 50, who knows what would have happened to him? And so the PSA is a valuable tool, but I think also using your clinical skills and even encouraging men to have digital rectal exams. What's happened with the use of the PSA is a lot of urologists now are telling men they don't need digital rectal exams.
Mm.
And I disagree. But my patients are coming to me and say, they said I don't need to do this anymore. I'm like, well, you still got to do it for me. And basically, from when I diagnosed that patient at age 40, just from palpating a nodule on exam. The other benefits of doing a digital rectal exam, you can feel the texture of the prostate, tell if people have a nodular bumpy prostate. And then if you do a blood test on them and the PSA is abnormal, well, you know that you really need to send them to a urologist, and they need to have things like the MRI that you're referring to really determine if they have cancer. But I think that the biggest thing that I've continued to do, and it's an evolving thing, I think I use the PSA. I think we did. It became. I think the benefit of some of these changing guidelines is that it at least gives you an idea of when you should tell men they should stop doing them. And so I think if you get to age 75 and you've been followed for that, I think you can feel more comfortable discontinuing it, and also telling patients, look, if you get symptoms, we can send you to a urologist. And if you get prostate cancer, the odds are that you are not going to die from this, and that you have an excellent chance you're going to die of something else. That's not very encouraging, but hopefully that whatever else occurs many years later than you hope or you expect. But I do screening on African American men at age 40. I try, if you come in for physicals every year, I will try and do the PSA annually. One of the things that happens is you'll get an abnormal PSA. So a normal PSA technically is up to 4. Well, when people cross 4, then it triggers an alarm. I'm calling the patient. I'm telling them, hey, you have this abnormality. Then the question becomes, what are the causes of an elevated PSA in primary care that you don't have to necessarily send someone to cancer? And I think that's important. Just because you have an elevated PSA isn't the end of the world, but it does trigger anxiety when you tell people they could potentially have cancer. And a lot of times what I do in my practice is if I see an elevated PSA, I will treat patients for infection, for potential asymptomatic prostatitis, and then repeat their PSA and in a month or so. And if they're abnormal, I send patients to the urologist. And if they normalize, I tell patients, unlikely you have prostate cancer, but we're going to check it again in the future. I think one of the challenges in primary care is just what you're talking about. Is you're talking about now you need to have a nuanced conversation with people about PSA. Primary care doctors don't have time to do it. Okay, they don't, and that's why it's probably easier just to order a PSA, or if people say, "Oh, I don't want to do it," just instead of encouraging people who might be at higher risk to get that done, especially men of color, you just rather than take that time because it is time consuming, and you're not necessarily going to be compensated for it. I think it's easier to just not do it. And I think it was easier probably for doctors when they weren't worrying about, oh my God, am I going to miss this patient's prostate cancer, when they recommended less screening. But I don't think that necessarily benefits the patients. And I think, educating patients and patients being educated about their health care is something important. I mean, now so if your PSA is abnormal, I will send you to the urologist. And the urologists now are doing things differently. They are watchfully waiting people. They're doing things like MRIs and other things rather than rushing to surgery the way they did in the past, because urologists are urologic surgeons. They get paid for doing surgery. They don't get paid for sending you for radiation or seed implants or anything like that. So there is a little bit of a bias that they might have. And so I do respect that a lot of the urologists nowadays are sending patients for referrals with radiation oncologists and other people before they pursue surgery and giving patients options. But I think the biggest thing is also, educating people. Look, my brother-in-law just recently diagnosed with prostate cancer. He lives in New York, worked for the city of New York, had good health insurance, went to do physicals, every couple years or so with a primary care doctor. And he tells me, I never had a PSA. He's 65 years old. Now I think some of that may be changes in guidelines. I trained in New York, and so I know there's a range of care in New York, but I'm sure most of the doctors in New York are still doing PSAs. But to have a man of color, age 65, who's never had a baseline PSA, I think is reprehensible. And frankly, just poor care. And so, but again, there's always this question that's become, oh, we're overly chesting these things, and you can say the same thing about mammograms. But when you find cancer in people, they are very appreciative of it. And even patients who don't end up having surgery, just to know it. And I can tell you, so many patients come to me who've had prostate cancer, and they say, "Thank you, doctor, for saving my life." And I shrug and say, that's I appreciate their saying that, but it's part of the job. It's part, if you do the recommended things in primary care, things line up and they work out better for the patients and their outcomes, and you look good as a physician. I'm not sure if anybody has any questions or anything they'd like me to add, but I mean, from a primary care perspective, screening people I fully support. having those conversations about the limits of prostate cancer and the significance of the PSA is important. But I think it is important that people know that that's out there and that they certainly are getting PSAs done well before they get 65. And frankly, hopefully they're starting no later than 50.
Thank you so much, Dr. Potts. We're going to entertain questions a little bit later in the program. Thank you. Really appreciate the information that you shared with us. Next, Thomas Pace is going to provide a testimonial on his experience with prostate cancer.
Okay.
Brother
Hello,
Pace.
everyone. My name is Tommy. I reside in New Bedford. First, want to start out by thanking Dr. Potts for just listening to the fine work that he's done over the years with patients. For me, it would have been encouraging if I would have been able to always, when I got diagnosed with prostate, I was like looking for someone that looked like me to try to speak to me about it, because I think one of the things about prostate exams, there's this stigma with men, and I think it's just men in general. I don't say it's just Black men. It's just having the procedure where you got to do the rectal exam. The PSA is what it is. It's not too invasive, but the rectal exam, most men don't want to go through that experience. But I think that, like Dr. Potts was saying, educating men about the benefits of having a prostate screening, understanding, what age should be recommended. I agree with Dr. Potts because of my experience. I started getting checked at 40 because my father had got diagnosed when he was 65, and he had a super aggressive prostate cancer, and he lived in Colorado. So his doctor had contacted me as well as my doctor, and they wanted me to get tested. Because they wanted me to get tested. Why? Because the factors is age, ethnicity, family history, and then if you're definitely obese, you're at greater risk for any type of cancer. In my case, it was family related that got me focused into, trying to get tested. And I had a great doctor. Over the years, it was tough for me to try to trust doctors because of some of the things that you hear over the past histories of men of color being experimented on and things of that nature. I was lucky to have met a doctor by the name of Brett Herteau. He's over at South Coast Health. He's a great doctor, and he gives me the information the way I need to hear it. He's a Caucasian guy. He's short. I'm tall. I'm 6 feet. I'm a Black male. So we're a little bit of the opposite, but I respect him because he tells me everything that I need to hear, even though I don't want to hear it. And I trust his recommendation for getting me to the urologist. And the way in which I got diagnosed was I had took a little bit of time off from seeing the doctor. I don't know why I took a break. And I started having hip pains. I started doing a little research, and it was like, if you have hip pains or lower back pains or anything like that, you might want to get checked. And I had already been doing the PSA, and they did the rectal exams, but for some odd reason, some kept telling me, just go talk to your doctor and get tested. So I went and got tested, and my PSA was normally running about 1 or a little bit over 1. And what had happened, my PSA jumped to like it was almost 4. And I was like, saying to my doctor, I was like, that's not a bad thing. I've heard people having PSAs way higher than that. But he said, this is abnormal. So what the doctor recommended, he said, I want to recommend that, the urologist said, I want to recommend that we do a biopsy. So I didn't know what it was. I just knew it was part of the process to try to detect whether or not you had some form of cancer. So, I went to the doctor, not really knowing what I was walking into. And, it was a procedure that I had to do in order to get across the bridge. And I went through it, and I went away for vacation, and I came back probably 4 weeks later. My doctor said, we need to talk. And when we had our conversation about being diagnosed, he said, I have some news that I'm gonna be straightforward with you. You did test positive for prostate cancer. Your prostate cancer is it's abnormal. You have some low cancer cells, but then you have some super, super aggressive numbers as far as the tumors. So as he was talking to me, I just went to a different place. He was talking and I couldn't really hear him because, you know, I have this flash thing saying that I do everything for my kids, that I do everything I could do in this life. There's a lot of things that go on in your head when you get diagnosed, and then I snapped out of it. And then my doctor was so good because he stopped there. He didn't go into, let's talk about treatments or anything. He said, this is a lot of information. I just want you to go home. And in about a week or two, we'll get back together. We'll start looking at the treatments. It's not the end of the world. I want you to understand that there's other people that have been in the same situation. And, you know, we can deal with it. We can treat it in a number of ways. So what I did was I just became a YouTube expert on prostate. I looked up all I did every day, all day was, I was first trying to find people that look like me that try to help me get some comfort level into, you know, what they were saying, but I didn't find that. But I did find some individuals that were brutally honest about, you know, what you need to do as far as selecting a doctor. And then you need to really look at the doctor's resume of these procedures. And I was blessed to have met Patrick Kelty. He's a urologist in Fall River, and I can't think of my actual surgeon, but Dr. Kelty, I thought he would have did my surgery, but he recommended to his team physician who did my surgery. And I thought that was sort of funny because Dr. Kelty's got 33 years experience in the business. I was like, why would this guy, you know, recommend me out if he's my doctor and he does this? So I had to, you know, really understand that. But I still did a lot of research, and he did a lot of education, educating me about prostate cancer. One of the biggest things that, you know, I started listening to other individuals, what they went through, the different options. But one of the biggest things that got me was when I actually looked at the chart, when they gave me my chart and it showed my numbers. That Gleason score is what helped me ultimately decide which way I wanted to go. And then based on me being in the early stage, where I was in a stage 2 or 3 or 4, like my father was 4, he didn't have any options. So I looked at the options, you know, when you're early stage, you can sometimes just wait it out and see if the sales and things are going to be overly aggressive. But in my case, like I said, I had some overly aggressive sales. I looked at the information and I was shocked. And I looked at the Gleason score. If the Gleason score is below 6, you know, you may be able to buy yourself a little bit of time, but I was like borderline, and I had these super aggressive growths. And the doctor, when he came in, he explained to me, he said, when I first met with the surgeon, it was like 2 months after I got diagnosed. So I was like thinking I was just going to talk to him about something, and he was actually trying to do surgery. And I said, no, we got to hold up. Let's look at some of the other options. I want to talk to a doctor that did the radiation. And the one thing I did like about my doctors, they didn't pressure me into doing anything. They just said, they gave me the information, and they said, ultimately, you're going to make the decision with your friends and family. And I really respected that. So they held off on doing any type of treatment until I went to do the radiation, which I appreciated. I talked to the radiation individual, and like I said, I knew I had super aggressive cells. So, and it was early. So I could have just went through radiation and took my chances and then have more radiation if it comes back. But when you're in the early stages, you have options. You can do the removal. And then if you did come back, then you could do radiation. But if you do the radiation and then you have to do more radiation, that's going to be tough on your body. But there were other things that I looked at when I made my decision. I did the surgery, but the things that I made a decision because I was in my 50s. I have 3 sons, 20, 27, 24, and 23. I'm not having any more kids. So for some men, it's a matter of I still want to have all those functions and things like that. But for me, it was just a matter of, you know, I've been there, done it. I had a great life. As long as I can, prolong my life and be able to guide my sons and you know, family members and help them out if they ever encounter this disease. But the biggest thing and why I'm talking about, I've been doing a lot of talking to men about it for some odd reason, especially men of color, because a lot of times we don't know what we don't know. And then when we get in a situation, we have to make a decision, but we don't have many people that can educate us on this particular topic. So I think it's important that communities in urban areas try to just bring men out and help them become aware of the possibilities and the certain things that they need to do to try to help themselves out. And one of the things we do is, I say men of color, and most men, you know, we're hunters and providers. We focus on you know, providing for the family, building wealth. But I always been telling a lot of people lately is focus on your health, because if you don't have your health, you might have some money, you're not going to be able to do anything with it. So you got to change the, you know, start to look into investing in yourself. And for me, me going through my situation, I did some more, even after I did the surgery, they had some genetic testing, and that's something that I really wanted to do, because I have my 3 sons, and they have something called a bracket gene. And I just wanted to make sure I didn't have the bracket gene, because that puts my kids at risk. And I went through it, and I didn't want to do it because I sort of felt like I was dealing with invading on Mother Nature, trying to get ahead of it. But I went ahead and did the test. It came out negative. So a good thing is my kids, it's, you know, they're not gonna, they'll have to worry about it. They still have to worry about possibly getting prostate cancer sometime in their lifetime, but it wasn't a situation where they had the bracket gene. But this being diagnosed just helped me to understand the importance of diet. And I used to talk about it like I'm a carnivore. Nuts and everything. Right now, that's all I eat. I don't touch meat anymore. I may have 4 ounces. It's on occasion if I'm going out for a social event. You know, I always ate meat. I ate McDonald's. I ate Wendy's. I had ice cream. I had ice cream all the time. I ate tons of cheese. I drank gallons of milk. I did all the stuff that, you know, made me feel good. It wasn't good for my body. We're not worried about what we're putting in our body. But I do really like to commend Dr. Potts, you know, just hearing his story on what he's done over the years, because this is the first time I'm meeting him. I'm really excited that there's someone out there that is, you know, doing things to, you know, not just impact men of color, but his best practices are gonna help a lot of men, you know, be around to experience things with their kids that some doctors may not want to do it. But I think everything he said, based on all my notes and my research, is perfect. And I will hope that he continues to do the work that he does, because he's definitely making an impact in the community that he serves. You know, and like I said, I always want to commend somebody that's out there doing the work, not just talking about it, but actually making a difference. And the biggest thing, like I said, for men, they just have to find a doctor that they trust. You know, for me, it took me a long time to find a doctor that I could trust. You know, I always live by this thing where I trust no one, but I have to trust someone. And in life, you have to figure that out as you go, and you'll find out who's really with you and who's really genuinely looking out for you. And like I said, me and my doctor are probably the complete opposites, but you know, I love my doctors. I love my doctor to death. I moved to Boston and I traveled to New Bedford every time I had to come and see him, because for me, it wasn't a matter of money. It was a matter of, you know, comfort and knowing that he was giving me genuine information, like he treated me like I was family. And that was one of the biggest things that all my doctors, even the urologist that I had, that I'm dealing with, I'm going to go see him tomorrow because I got to do my screening. But, you know, I get excited when I see them, because I know that they're really looking out for me and my health. And I just thank God I have the team that I have available to help me along my journey. And like I said, I'm not out of the zone, but, you know, I'm free right now. I'll get tested again tomorrow. And, you know, I just have to, like, I changed to a plant-based diet, and I do a lot of working out. It costs me a little more money. I hired a personal trainer. Like I said, my health is worth more than anything else. So I'm at this stage in my life, I'm really investing in myself, learning different type of holistic things you can do, yoga, do a lot of meditation, to try to reduce your stress levels and things of that nature. And these are just natural things that you can do and don't cost money, but not too many people are talking about these types of things. And I think that those things should be somewhat incorporated into, urban areas. Because a lot of times we don't get the simple stuff. We're dealing with a lot of things that, takes us away from probably doing a lot of those things. But I think a lot of it goes to education, and I'm gonna cut myself short because I can probably talk a lot more, but I'm just excited that you guys allow me to just participate on this platform and just share my story.
Tommy, thank you so very, very much for sharing your story. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Next, we're going to hear from Dr. Faye Stern. She's the president of AdMeTech Foundation. And Dr. Stern is going to talk about the AdMeTech Foundation, but also she's going to describe the Prostate Cancer Equity Program. Dr. Stern.
Thank you so much, Andrea. Tommy, thank you so much for sharing your story. It is really appreciated. I never take it for granted when a man shares his experience with prostate cancer because it's really intimate and it's very personal, and it is really appreciated. I was listening to you, Dr. Potts, and I was thinking how lucky your patients are, in spite of all the trials and tribulation, and in spite of all the politics around PSA that were absolutely impossible to comprehend. Your patients were really lucky.
Thank you.
And still are, I'm sure. I would like to introduce a couple of members of our team, AdMeTech's team, who made this event possible. Thomas Satam, Director of Operations. Emma Coyard. Emma is our manager, and including Prostate Cancer Equity Program, and Craig McClay, who is our educational coordinator. I will talk about Prostate Cancer Equity Program and some very recent advances in prostate cancer care. And at the end, I would like to give an opportunity for Emma and for Craig to say a few words, because they are very important parts of the prostate cancer equity team, and so is Thomas. Emma, do you mind playing the video? We've had so many trials and tribulations around PowerPoint presentations in virtual events that we started creating videos for each event. My name is Faye Stern. I'm grateful to New Bedford NAACP for the long-term partnership since 2017 and for the opportunity to take part in this event. I'm a physician and president of the AdMeTech Foundation, a nonprofit organization leading regional, national, and global programs in prostate cancer education, research, public awareness, advocacy, and clinical care equity. The main topic of my presentation is our Prostate Cancer Equity Program and its mission to bring the cutting-edge advances in patient care to Massachusetts men and eliminate health disparities. Prostate Cancer Equity Program is an integral part of the AdMeTech's ongoing statewide program in prostate cancer that created a Massachusetts model of national leadership in public awareness, medical education, and research. Our primary focus is on high-risk men, Black, Hispanic, and Latino individuals, and all men with family history of prostate cancer and increasing age, 50 and older. I'd like to express my gratitude to the members of the New Bedford delegation to the State House, particularly Senator Mark Montigny and his staff, and Representative Antonio Cabral and his staff, who have been champions of this program. For public awareness and education, our messaging centered
on the importance of screening and early detection critical for saving lives. Early detection is particularly important for Black, including Hispanic men, who are 2.5 times more likely to die compared to white men. With early detection of prostate cancer, every man is alive in 5 years. In sharp contrast, with late diagnosis, when cancer is spread to other organs, only 28% of men remain alive during the same period of time. The centerpiece of AdMeTech's medical education is annual global summit on precision diagnosis and treatment of prostate cancer. Our summit has been recognized as a seminal event in shaping the state-of-the-art and future vision for patient care. Our summit brings together the key international experts representing every clinical expertise to review the best emerging clinical practices. The latest 7th annual conference took place only a few weeks ago. This educational event showed a rapid advances in patient care. In screening, our summit supports clinical practice guidelines recommended by the National Comprehensive Cancer Network, consisting of over 28 leading cancer hospitals and their experts. High-risk men, including Black men, and any individuals with family history of prostate cancer are recommended to initiate discussions with their doctors about screening with PSA blood test at the age of 40. Average risk men should start screening at the age of 45. The first or baseline screening test in younger men is important for identifying men at risk of lethal prostate cancer long-term, over 10 years. In diagnostics, we have seen emergence of very accurate non-invasive tools, such as blood, urine, and saliva analysis for molecular and genetic markers, and advanced imaging, including ultrasound, MRI, molecular imaging. This non-invasive diagnostics highlighted the importance of PSA screening and shifted past concerns about screening into a dustbin of history. For example, this diagnostic test can determine which specific individual man has an increased risk of life-threatening, rapidly progressing prostate cancer, improve early detection critical for saving lives, reduce unnecessary procedures such as biopsies and treatment, and optimize selection of personalized precision care for each man, including careful observation or active surveillance, minimally invasive, what we call focal interventions, when only a tumor or a part of the prostate is treated, or radical interventions when the entire prostate is treated with or without systemic drugs. High-risk individuals, including Black men, carry higher risk of both mortality and unnecessary procedures. Consequently, it is critical for them to have access to precision diagnostics that determine for each individual man if he should or should not have invasive biopsy or treatment, and what options in clinical care are best for him. Unfortunately, in Massachusetts, compared to white men, Black men are less likely to have precision diagnostics such as advanced imaging, molecular or genetic testing, and to undergo life-saving treatment. Prior to undergoing invasive biopsy or treatment, it is important for each man to discuss with his doctor if any testing is available to determine if these procedures are actually needed, and if yes, what kind of options would work best for him. For example, in this slide, MRI shows prostate cancer lesions and guides biopsy needles with precision. AdMeTech has led research, development, and large-scale implementation of prostate MRI since 1998. In 2013, Massachusetts legislature funded clinical trial of prostate MRI, which produced groundbreaking data that were presented at the summit in 2016. By early 2017, about 6 months later, MRI was recommended as the new standard of patient care prior to biopsy and prior to treatment. Our summit highlighted the importance of MRI in Black men who are likely to have lesions in the front part of the prostate that are difficult to find by physical exam or standard blind biopsies performed without accurate imaging. In men with prostate cancer, there are two pillars of the current diagnostics: MRI and genetics. While MRI shows cancer location and local spread or stage, genetic analysis of cancer tissue reveals underlying biology and probability of progression. Emerging data indicate the importance of genetic testing for high-risk men, Black men in particular, for selecting the most effective and appropriate treatment. With this precision diagnostics, we can now accurately determine if each individual has a slow-growing, harmless disease and needs only careful observation or minimally invasive procedures, or an aggressive prostate cancer requiring immediate life-saving treatment. More recently, molecular imaging has been shown to play an important role in staging of prostate cancer, including presence of metastatic disease and detecting return of prostate cancer after treatment. For example, molecular imaging with PSMA has become available at the Dana-Farber Cancer Institute since August 2021. On the left, right here, we can see a regular bone scan that shows no metastatic disease. On the right, however, we have molecular imaging that demonstrates extensive metastasis on the same patient. This information is important for selecting appropriate treatment. We are proud to have led research and development of molecular imaging since 2001. Our summit concluded that equal access to high-quality care is the key factor in improving patient outcomes for all men and eliminating health disparities in Black men. It is particularly important now with so many novel diagnostic and therapeutic approaches, ensuring high-quality, personalized patient care. Without equal access to these advances in patient care, we will see a widening gap in inequalities, including survival and mortality. Consequently, AdMeTech launched the Prostate Cancer Equity Program in Massachusetts in collaboration with Mass General Brigham, UMass, and other clinical institutions, with the mission to save lives and deliver high-quality care. Supporting organizations include Latino Health Insurance Program and NAACP New England Area Conference, with their multiple branches located across the state. Any Massachusetts man age 40 and older can take part in this program. Our priority focus is on Black, Hispanic, and Latino men who are at high risk of prostate cancer, delayed diagnosis, poor quality care, and death. Our goal is to expedite access to leading experts who use the most advanced approaches to screening, diagnosis, and treatment available today, and to support men every step of their medical journey. This program helps men to find an expert with the initial or a second opinion, in-person or virtual visits. We believe that in Massachusetts, with its leading hospitals and universal access to care, our prostate cancer equity program will be able to eliminate health disparities. Experts of the prostate cancer equity program can address any questions about prostate health, from assessing an individual healthy man's personal risk of cancer to informing men about all available options before and after screening, biopsies, and treatment. We are committed to supporting men during every step of their medical journey to ensure that no man is left behind or struggling alone. To achieve this goal, we created a streamlined VIP-style process of patient referral and care, reflecting how doctors involved in this program take care of our families and friends. This process consists of three essential components. AdMeTech Foundation's team members collect basic information and match individual patient needs with the appropriate state experts for clinical care. A clinical organization designates a patient navigator to expedite a medical visit and related needs, including scheduling, registration, transportation, and financial assistance if needed. If an expert recommends any next steps, such as, for example, further diagnostic, evaluation, or treatment, AdMeTech's team and patient navigator work with men on the appropriate follow-up. I'd like to share with you a few recent examples of how prostate cancer equity program has been making a difference. This is the case of a Black man with a history of prostate cancer who is currently being treated. On May 15, his doctor informed him that his scheduled treatment could not be provided due to problems with the insurance coverage. He got upset and shared his situation with a leader of the Men of Color Health Awareness Program, MOCA, our community partner in Springfield. On late afternoon of Friday, right before the Memorial Weekend, he contacted us and appealed for help. Our primary goal was to restore his treatment as soon as possible. And we immediately reached out to Dr. Mitchell Sokolov and his team at UMass and secured their support. On May 30th, right after Memorial Day, UMass Urology provided guidance to this man how to address his insurance issues. By Friday the same week, on June 2nd, the insurance issue had been resolved, and the appointment with Dr. Sokolov was scheduled at the earliest opportunity in early July to resume his treatment. The following Monday, MOCA leader heard what happened and asked for a second opinion for his own urologic issue and received an appointment with a leading urologic expert within a few days of his request. This is a story of a Black man in his mid-50s who was referred to us about several months ago in mid-May by Cambridge NAACP. This man was recently diagnosed with prostate cancer. He got alarmed when his urologist informed him that the best care will not be available to him due to his limited insurance. We connected him right away with the patient navigator at the Mass General Brigham. She obtained a referral from his primary care physician and secured approval from his insurance. By June 6, this man saw Dr. Adam Feldman, a leading clinical expert and one of our featured physicians. Dr. Feldman described various treatment options but recommended surgery, which was performed in mid-August. Emma Coyert serves as a manager of the Prostate Cancer Equity Program. Emma is assisted by Erin Roberts, program coordinator, Craig McClay, patient educator, and other members of the AdMeTech Foundation's team. When you come to us, Emma will work with you, our team, Mass General Brigham, UMass, and other clinical partners to expedite medical visits and address any needs you may have. Our team may not be able to right every social wrong that cannot be resolved by federal or state government, or provide perfect solutions for every man. And yet we are committed to doing our best and making sure men are not left behind or struggling alone. If you have any questions or need assistance, please contact Emma by phone 617-523-3535 or by email coordinator@admetechfoundation.org. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Craig. Do you want to say a few words why with a very busy schedule that you have, you responded to our invitation to serve as an educator for Prostate Cancer Equity Program?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Dr. Stern, and thank everyone here for all of your service and diligence and commitment to high quality service for Black men in particular. and yeah, I came into this because, well, just a little background first. I grew up as a youth development practitioner. I was out in the world organizing young people in groups and doing things like that because I really had a passion for young people. And then I met Dr. Linda Sprague-Martinez, who introduced me to Dr. Kamara Jones and her tale about the gardener. And for just in short, is you could plant seeds, but it's the soil that you plant them in that's really important. And so I started thinking about it in terms of the young people, and it's like, oh wow, we could take care of young people and we keep pulling these babies up the river if we want. Or we can kind of go upstream and take better care of the people that are in charge of our kids throughout the course of the day. And those are parents and teachers. And so I shifted my focus to start to work with the adults that could have the most impact and influence in young people's lives. And as Tommy said earlier, you nailed it, man. If you don't have your health, then you don't have anything. And so when this opportunity arose, I was like, okay, yes, of course, yes. That was the first layer of it. And then also, I just made 50 back in September of this year, and all of my friends are turning 50, and most of my friends are men of color. And we're starting to get to that place right now where we're starting to see an uptake on the sunsetting ceremonies of our friends. And it's just really important that we get this message out to as many men of color as fast as possible, because this is one of the things that is taking our young men, or taking our men away from their families. And we could, if we could stop this, then we could focus our attention on working on other things. But this is a really important issue to me personally, and I definitely want to share it with as many people as possible, starting with my family and friends, and then kind of spreading out further from there.
Thank you so much. With Craig on our team, I have no doubt that we'll see many more, particularly Black men, coming for prostate cancer PSA screening or prostate cancer screening, everything that it takes, because without screening, we cannot initiate. There is not much we can do. Everything starts with screening and early detection. Emma, do you want to say a few words?
Yeah, my name is Emma Couillard. I've been with AdMeTech for about 2 years now, and you would be the first person that I would talk to, anyone who calls about the Prostate Cancer Equity Program. And tonight is especially exciting for me because I've personally talked with 4 different men over the past few weeks from the New Bedford area, and we've connected them with experts at MGB and at UMass. So it's something that I'm really passionate about, and specifically why I love working at AdMeTech is because Dr. Stern is specifically so passionate and cares so much about this issue. So I'll put my number and the email in the chat, and feel free to reach out to us because everyone on the team is there to listen and there to assist you. So thank you, and congrats on a good program tonight.
Thank you so much, Emma. Thomas, do you want to say a few words?
Hi, everybody. My name is Thomas. I'm the director of operations and health policy at AdMeTech. I've been here for almost 5 years. It's been a long time. So, I mean, we've been doing some programs specifically New Bedford for before the pandemic in person. And I mean, to see this is an important area to us. I know that when we've had meetings with different community partners over the years, this is a priority for us for that. And the work that we do with a lot of these community events, this is the final event of our community event season. We've had 6 or 7 in the last 6 weeks. So I know that our range and our grassroots efforts very important for that. So I'm always honored to have these events every year. This has been a very excellent program.
Thank you so much, Thomas. And I want to acknowledge your work. Before you joined us, we were reaching a few thousand men per year since you became a part of AdMeTech, and you joined this program and built incredible partnership with so many communities and organizations. We're reaching 10, 15 plus thousand people per year through our educational program. So thank you for your work. We will be happy to address any questions anyone may have. Andrea, we are all here to answer any questions. Thomas, do we have any questions through Facebook?
Not at this moment.
Okay. Any questions from the participants of this event?
Thank you for this opportunity to join this esteemed group And one might wonder, what the hell is this woman doing here? And I just wanted to let you know that I worked with two internationally renowned radiation oncologists at Mass General, and their particular focus was prostate cancer. And they are Dr. Jason Eustathiou and Dr. Anthony Zeitman. And we were working on the development of the, I believe, first National Radiation Oncology Registry. And that was, I was involved in that project. And I don't know if it's actually in place, but its entire focus was to gather data to be able to assess efficacy and the different modalities in terms of treating prostate cancer or cancers along the entire spectrum, and what works and what doesn't, and what's effective and what's cost effective. And my experience at Mass General was one of the most incredible experiences of my very long professional life. So I thank you for the opportunity to share this event, and I really appreciate the work that you're doing.
Ms. Johnson, thank you for your work. Dr. Eustathiou, Dr. Zeitman participated in our summit.
I would have guessed.
So did Dr. Eustathiou, and Dr. Eustathiou took care of quite a few of our patients.
They're wonderful.
Outstanding. They're both outstanding physicians. And Dr. Eustathiou actually focused a significant part of his career for delivering care for Black men and addressing health disparities. Any other comments? Any other questions?
Hi, I just wanted to say thank you to AdMeTech and Dr. Potts and Tommy for sharing all that you have tonight. On behalf of NAACP, I know we appreciate it. And there are people out there watching on Facebook. I want to thank Andrea Gavans for helping lead this charge with Thomas. You guys have been amazing. So I just wanted to say thank you to everyone for all your hard work.
Thank you very much, President Ledbetter. Andrea, back to you.
This has been a wonderful, wonderful program. Thank all of the panelists. And well, one thing I want to make sure that folks see is that if you look in the chat, Emma's number and her email address is in the chat, but I will also give the number, which is 617-523-3535. No man should have to deal with this alone. I guess in closing, everything really was said. I can only add that, brothers, we need you in our community. We need you to be a part of our families. We need you to help us with our children. We need you, but we also need you to stay healthy. So let's talk about it. Let's become informed, and let's not be embarrassed. Thank you all so very much.
Continue your good work. Continue your good work.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
I hope everyone will have a great evening. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for your partnership. Have a great evening.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Blessed evening.
Thank you. Take care.